The UN and many in the media would have you believe Israel is actively attacking UN peacekeeping forces in southern Lebanon. When I first heard these reports, I too was very concerned. The UN accusing Israel of firing on its peacekeepers, forcing its way onto a UN base there, disrupting logistics, injuring more than a dozen of its peacekeepers. But then when you dig in, there's actually a lot more to the story. What few seem to be talking about is the reality that the UN force, which is made up of about 10,000 peacekeepers from 50 countries and has been stationed along the Israel-Lebanon border, the so-called Blue Line, for decades, is supposed to be enforcing a demilitarized border on the Lebanese side. The reality, of course, is that they've done nothing to actually enforce that until now, it seems. Iran-backed Hezbollah terrorists have dug hundreds of tunnel entrances and underground bunkers where they store weapons and fighters to attack Israel. They're tunnel entrances just a stone's throw from UN observation desks, and Israel is now being attacked from right near where the peacekeepers are stationed, which raises the question, of course, what exactly are those UN forces observing? Hezbollah's presence in the region has only grown, and we know that much like Hamas terrorists, Hezbollah hides among civilians, storing weapons in civilian buildings, launching missiles from civilian areas. Again, the area is supposed to be demilitarized. In theory, the peacekeepers are there to be enforcing that. And yet the border on the Lebanese side is not demilitarized. It's become a staging ground for Hezbollah. And now the peacekeepers are trapped in the middle of the ongoing war between Israel and Hezbollah. What's also terrible is that despite warnings from Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to the UN to move the troops out of areas where it's fighting Hezbollah, the UN's refusing to leave. And that means peacekeepers are getting hurt. At least 5 of them so far. It seems UN officials would rather look righteous on the international stage, taking a stand, so they get to scream and yell and accuse Israel of targeting peacekeepers. It just seems to be a bit of a no-win situation. But joining me now, someone who knows a lot more about this than I do, Dan Perry. He was the chief editor of the Associated Press in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. He served as chairman of the Foreign Press Association in Jerusalem. He's also author of the Ask Questions Later newsletter on Substack. Dan, thanks very much for coming on. Appreciate it. Am I being unfair here in my characterization and sort of shock at what's going on?
No, I think you're being shockingly fair. It's true. You know, the Middle East is full of narratives, as are many conflicts. But at this point, this situation in Lebanon is a series of incontrovertible truths, just as you said. An Iran-backed militia that is currently the world's largest non-state military actor has parked itself in Lebanon and is using it as a staging ground to attack a more powerful neighboring country. And the state of Lebanon has in the past supported UN resolutions, 2 of them, calling for Lebanon to be able to protect the sovereignty, for Hezbollah and other militias to be disarmed. And nothing has been done. And UNIFIL, of course, has become a bit of a joke for those very reasons that you articulated so well in your intro.
So why is the UN, at least even now, refusing to get out?
Well, look, I can't speak for the UN, obviously. I have my speculation. I mean, and I think you're correct in suggesting again in your intro that it might have to do more with politics than with their actual mandate. I'm not sure what in their mandate enables them, what conditions are stipulated to enable them to turn tail, basically, and get out of Dodge. Yeah. It's possible that they forgot to sort of define that kind of situation. But what I do know is that UNIFIL, basically, like most peacekeeping forces, has its guidelines are a mess of contradictions. Diplomatic community would prefer to call it constructive ambiguity or nuance. They have weapons. They have light weapons, but also APCs, I believe. They are authorized to use force, but only in self-defense. On the other hand, their mandate also says they need to work with the Lebanese armed forces to enforce the resolutions that call for that area to be demilitarized. Now, that sounds like more than self-defense, but the Lebanese armed forces made it easy for the UN to abdicate their mission when they themselves did, and basically they're nowhere to be seen in the area. UNIFIL, you're right, should probably just leave. Yeah. The current situation is one where they're getting in the way.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.